Yeah, and we are glad to be here. I'm having a little trouble with Rumble Studio, probably about the quickness that I was bringing it up. We are a nightly show, and I probably should say 10:10 or 10:15, which is what I did for when we were coming out of the other show. So I was trying to get that up. I'm going to reset that while we're sitting here. Anyway, I'm Dave the AM, your MAGA report. SFP MAGA report. It's a nightly news show that we are going to look at the news of the day. And just since we had cut a show or a MAGA minute this morning, news has already broke because it has to deal with, yes, the minerals, and we're going to look at that. So let me see if I can get this situated here. I had a really good Hump Day views. It's good to have my sister in. Yeah, I am busy tonight, Miss Jenneth. It is. It's a busy night. I told my wife, I said, going to be busy. She understands that. So we just sometimes we just go. You just go and you do, and you go some more. Sometimes you get a little bit behind. And I don't know what's going on in Rumble Studio tonight. We may not have a Rumble Studio. I don't know why. No, I'm just going to close the room and try to redo the whole thing. So it is what it is. So, but we'll fix that up. But yeah, this is a nightly Monday through Friday nightly news shows. We talk about the news of the day. It's called the MAGA report, and we'll tie in closely with the MAGA minute. And so we got some new backgrounds. We caught heat for that day when I was talking about uh, the uh, the issue that was going on with the people hating on us. They hated our background for this show. They hated it. They said we were sick. We don't care. We just don't care. Thank you, Taurus. I hope you're good out there wherever you are. Truck driving man. We hope you're doing well out in the far reaches of the north, which is where you seem to be. But he's from Georgia. And so sometimes he is down here. That's where I met him, actually, was down here when he did that. And so that was cool. So let me see if I can pull this back up. This is acting all kind of strange, and I don't know why. But we're just gonna get it out there. I think we're going up live now in Rumble Studio. Sorry, it's just important that we link all this stuff together. But we'll get there. I am multitasking. We're also on Podbean tonight. I go live with Podbean. We'll get this linked up here, and you folks in Rumble Studio will say it makes more sense now. Now, there we go. Done. In Pennsylvania, tomorrow I'm going back to Boston. Boston. Be careful up there. Be careful out there, my man. Take care. Hey, the mineral deal's done. We talked about it, and then early in the show, and I've been busy at the funeral all day, or a lot of the day, except for when we started recording. And of course, had family here, and they were doing things, and I don't know, they're slick out there getting me things for birthday while I'm online. But yeah, there it is. The U.S. Ukraine signed the mineral deal. So as Newsmax likes to say, tying Trump to Kyiv. This is interesting. This doesn't mean we have to put boots on the ground, but it does mean we have an interest there, which is interesting. We need the minerals. We need to recoup some. They need the support. We can trade out for some of the money that they've wasted or whatever. There's not a lot of details here, but it was signed in D.C., Washington, D.C., after months of pressure, goes on to say. Yeah, Charles, they have signed the deal for Ukraine to compensate the U.S. for billions in military and economic assistance following Russia's invasion of 2022. The agreement was expected to give the U.S. access to Ukraine's vast is the word. They have a lot of this stuff, rare earth minerals in exchange for security guarantees against future Russian aggression. The deal was initially agreed to in February. Remember, it never happened. There was a deal in place, but it never happened. due to other ongoing ceasefire activities. I'm sure there was a lot of things going on. Plus the blow up at the White House, where the little man tried to get smart with Vance and the president, Vice President Vance. Excuse me, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But that was on February 28th. Quote, thanks to the President Trump's tireless efforts to secure a lasting peace, I am glad to announce the signing of today's historic economic partnership agreement between the United States and Ukraine, establishing the United States-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund. I guess that would be called the USURIF, or can we just call it the RIF, the Reconstruction Investment Fund, for short. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said in a video posted on X, quote, this partnership allows the United States to invest alongside Ukraine to unlock Ukraine's gross assets, mobilize American talent, capital, and governance standards that will improve Ukraine's investment climate and accelerate Ukraine's economic recovery. He added the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation will participate and help to establish this fund in collaboration with the government of Ukraine. I am grateful to everyone who worked for the agreement and made it more meaningful, said Ukraine's first Deputy Prime Minister, Yulia Syriadenko, according to the Kyiv Independent. Now the document is such that it can ensure success for both our countries, Ukraine and the United States. The Reconstruction Investment Fund, I guess they are going to call it that for short, RIF, will be jointly managed by Kyiv and Washington, and with both sides contributing. The Independent reported Ukraine's Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal said future military aid from the U.S. can count as contributions to the fund, but prior assistance is not included. He added Ukraine will retain full control over subsoil, infrastructure, and natural resources, but the U.S. will help to attract additional investments and technologies to Ukraine. The establishment of the fund also will not interfere with Ukraine's path to membership in the European Union. Today's agreement signals clearly to Russian leadership that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine over the long term. It's time for this cruel and senseless war to end. The killing must stop, and both the United States and the government of Ukraine look forward to quickly operationalizing this historic economic partnership for both Ukraine and American people. And finally, the latest version of the deal, reviewed by the Washington Post, does not provide any concrete security guarantees to Ukraine, but it stated that Kyiv and Washington agree it affirms a long-term strategic alignment between the countries and U.S. support for Ukraine's security, prosperity, reconstruction, and integration into global economic frameworks. And by the way, the reconstruction is desperately needed. Hopefully they get this thing ended. There's whole cities gone in areas that will be unlivable for a long time. They've mined the ground so heavily, you can't go through there. It'll take decades to clear all that out. There's whole cities that have been destroyed. There's nothing there but dirt. Just totally wiped them off the face of the planet. There are apartment complexes that are been brought down like a 9/11. There's not a lot of things standing in some areas of the country. Some other areas are fine. So it's interesting. So we kept, the president needed a win. Let's just say it. I think that he needed a win. The ceasefire was looking really dim. They'd already talked about this deal. It was really a no-brainer for both sides. It puts the U.S. right back sort of in the catbird seat and tells the Europeans, so they can still go to the European Union, we've got rights here. We've got a deal. So they can stop all the talk about the British and whoever, the Germans, the French, whoever, are going to bring are going to dictate, and they're the new U.S. in the world. No, you're not. No, you're not. It's a way for America to recoup some of this money that the Bidens gave away like they were throwing candy at a parade. Billions of dollars. No accountability. Countries should pay their own way. This is a way they can do that. So, big deal. This is a big deal. It's was late, but it's there, and they've got it done. Another story that popped today: the Kyiv mayor, Klitschko. The headline says Ukraine may have to temporarily cede land for peace. This was another deal that was going on with Russia about Russia wanting certain territory. He said Ukraine may need to temporarily cede land as part of a peace deal with Russia. The British BBC media reported. So, that was, has been out there a little bit. This was talked about while they were over in Vatican City. One of the scenarios is to give up territory. It's not fair, but for the peace, temporary peace, maybe it could be a solution. Temporary. He was quoted by the BBC as saying in the interview, President Zelensky might be forced to accept a painful solution. Oh, he will. It's coming. To achieve peace. Shako said, although the Ukrainian people would never accept occupation by Russia, a former heavyweight boxing champion, this man is, a political rival of Zelensky, accused the president's entourage earlier this year of political intrigue. Russia pounded the capital city of Kyiv with missiles and drones on Thursday. This was last Thursday, killing at least 12 people in the biggest attack in the Ukrainian capital this year. So there are others admitting that they're going to have to do this. So you can tell some things are afoot. There is some talk about this going on. So we will just have to wait and see. But now that they've got this deal done, obviously we can't be mining for minerals and drones and rockets and stuff coming into the land. That's not going to work. So they've got to get this other deal done now. We will see what happens. I think that there is a possibility. Does Russia want to play ball? I still believe that Zelensky's going to have to go. Maybe I'm wrong. I just think Russia is not going to let this guy stay in power. I think they'll force the hand, but who knows? I could be wrong. He says he ain't going anywhere. But we'll see. We will see. But it is a big deal. And the liberals just hate this deal. Tara says Europe is being ruled by lefties now, as well as it being ruled last 30 years. They are ideological enemies of American spirit. This spirit is liberty lefties. It is not liberty at all, in my honest opinion. I understand. Yes, there is a vast ideological difference between the nations there and America. Yes. And we'll just have to see where this goes. But the Trump has said, and Vice President Vance, if we don't get a deal in Ukraine, we're walking. We're not going to keep doing this. We're not going to keep going back and forth. It is we're either in or we're out. He said we'll be out. So I would think, just reading the tea leaves, with this deal going into place, I would think you're going to see an uptick in pressure on getting the other deal done. And honestly, it's just, it's painful. It is painful. Nobody likes what's happened. And I get it. If I was an American, if a portion of the United States was being held by another foreign power, and all the damage and all the hurt and all the death and all the stealing and the kids missing. That's another thing. And kids got to be brought back. That would be very difficult to stomach. But you can't keep sending your sons into the line of battle for certain death. You're running out of manpower. You're running out of time. If you want to hold on to the most of the nation, you're gonna have to make a deal, and it will be painful. I mean, Crimea was one thing, but now we have this vast south and eastern, all the way up to the Kursk region, that Russia holds a lot of Ukrainian territory, and they're not going to give that up. It's a buffer now for them. I mean, the Russians have already been rebuilding on their side of the deal. They're in it for the long haul. It sucks. I'll say it. It sucks. This property is gone. They're not getting it. Ukraine is not getting it back. Russia has accomplished most of its goals, I believe. Bad as they were, and horrible as it is to say it, he being Putin, wanted to create a buffer zone. He did not want NATO on his border. His Russian border has extended out now by this. There will be a DMZ, a demilitarized zone, and a no man's land, I'm sure. I don't see checkpoints where Ukrainian soldiers and Russian soldiers are standing there. They're going to have to come up with something, because these folks don't get along, and it could blow up again. So is there peacekeeping forces? Is there, who knows what's going to happen with that? But I just think that you're going to see some kind of a cessation of hostilities. Some have said they couldn't get to 3 days. Now it's been floated about 30 days. If they can stop the killing and then work out with the negotiators to work out the land, who has what land. Russia has agreed, from what I've read, that they will pull out of cities that they don't own or don't hold more than 20% of. They would pull out of those, and those would remain under Ukrainian control. So, big deal. Didn't expect this to happen tonight, but it is a nice push forward. And for America, it gives us access to things that we really need. And we don't have to go to the Chinese for it. Wow. Sorry, my allergies are inflamed. And it's that or cough. So I don't like to drink too much while on the screen. But you have to do what you have to do. This is interesting. So the face-to-face talk, that famous picture, this will become a historic picture, where President Trump and Zelensky are face-to-face sitting in the chairs in Vatican City. That will become a very important historical picture. Now, the question would be, in the short term, it's a good thing. In the long term, the long view, will that picture go down in history and they will say, if only? If only. Or do they look back and go, this was the process of peace? It's interesting. And what is the long view? What is the long view for Ukraine? Ukraine wants to be in the European Union, yes. They wanted NATO. They're not going to get in. It's not going to happen. But they want some some economic allegiances, military allegiances, and stuff like that. But this thing has went on far too long, and people are, they're just dying. Slaughterhouse. And at some point, you have to find a way to stop. And it's going to be one of those deals where it'll take decades, because people have to die out. The hatred is going to be there, more so than ever before. There's going to be an extreme hatred between the two sides for what's happened to their loved ones and the loss of land. the loss of cities. There's going to be those that will be investigated for turning to the other side and things like that. There will be a lot of judicial stuff. And where does Ukraine go with their elections if they get that deal? Does Zelensky allow it? Because he's been using the threat of, not threat, but the fact that they're at war to stop having elections. Does he try to build his military back up by the selling of these things? Does Russia allow that? Do they threaten again? I don't know. Those are questions that's going to have to be answered. In the short run, we're probably okay. Ukraine and Russia will lick their wounds. They will count the dead. We'll probably never hear the official number. It'll be far off. They don't want to admit how bad it's been. Each side will claim some level of victory, and the recovery will begin. The infrastructure of Ukraine, there is damage to the electrical grid. There's damage to the water supplies in some cases. They're going to need they're going to need to get all that fixed up so that people can have electricity and people can have clean water. And Ukraine is going to need, it's always been a big farming place because they'll have this deal, but can they parlay that into global getting the global markets? They have to go somewhere. For its part, unless they have devious plans for other, I think Russia has accomplished most of the goals that they set out to accomplish. It seems to me. They wanted the Donbass. They wanted to reinforce their hold on Crimea. They wanted a land bridge, not a bridge from Russia to Crimea. They have that now. There'll be the super highways that'll be running out of Russian territory through that area of Ukraine down to Crimea. Ukraine will still hold on to Odessa and have the ability to offload ship, grains and things like that. This country is going to need a lot of reconstruction. And every day it goes on, and every attack, there's more massive destruction of property that's going to have to be dealt with. There's a lot of people that are dead. There's a lot of kids that are missing. That's the most horrible thing in all of this. And they're going to have to figure this out. The Ukrainian population will suffer for it for a time because they're dead. And the kids are gone. You've lost thousands of kids. Thousands. Some say 20,000, some say a lot more. I don't think nobody knows. And then in the international community, who's going to get charged with war crimes? Or human trafficking? Because they've got plans to do it. But a major deal, we'll have fun surmising and looking into the future in the crystal ball and trying to figure out where that's going. But President Trump, once again, the art of the deal has got her done. That'll be a big talking point tomorrow on the national news. I'm sure Ben talked about some that's not, but it'll be interesting to see how it's spun by the liberal media. Well, they're going to hate it because it's Trump. I'd be interested to see if Joe Biden has a thought about this. Just curious, what does he think about it? Will he have something to say? It'll be snarky, of course, but does he admit that it's a good deal for America and Ukraine? Or do they bash it because they didn't get it done and Biden didn't get to claim it? Is Biden jealous because he didn't think of it? Of course, he ain't thought of much. And he don't get the recognition of achieving peace. Biden wanted to put Putin in his place. He wanted to back Russia off. That didn't happen. In fact, they made advances further into the country. And so Biden ain't going to have much to boast about. But I say they trash the deal and try to make it, they'll spin it in ways to try to make it look like American greed and thievery and whatever else. You can just imagine the type of stuff that they'll be saying about this deal. But the deal be done. Paperwork is signed. It's time to move on. Stop the killing. After all, there are other fish to fry, as we say in the South. We've got the Iran situation. We still have missing people in Gaza with Hamas. We still have a tariff war that is going on most intently with China. It was interesting to listen to them at work talk about things that they've had to do without giving any details, because that would not be appropriate for me to do. We'll just say a part was needed in China. The cost would be so prohibitive, couldn't do it. And I predicted this. And I had predicted actually that the parts would actually go to the other country and then be sold. I don't know if that didn't what happened, but they said they found the part in another country. It's higher, but cheaper than buying it with the tariffs. So and that's what I've been saying. There's your middleman. There's the people that are making money off of this. All of a sudden, you couldn't find it. Now you found it. It may have been there already, but I wonder if they haven't cut a deal with China to buy some of this stuff that is being looked at that countries and companies and individuals want, and they couldn't. They couldn't get it because who can afford that? I mean, 143%. Wow, nobody going to be able to afford to do that. But there's always a way. People that make money, people that know how to spend money and be successful, they'll figure this out. There's some smart people involved on the corporate level. There's some smart financial people involved on the government level, and they will figure this out. They're not going to let these things go by the wayside. All again, you follow the money. Where's the money? I'm going to find the money. We're going to get it done. People ain't going to shut things down. They're going to find a way. And that's where people with business sense start making deals. So, and I'm curious, what does this mean? This minerals issue, what does it mean for us even getting back into business with China on some of this stuff? The Chinese might not be real happy tonight about these developments. I would say that's probably true. Another news item, the appeals court declined to lift restriction on Doge's access to Social Security information. The Fourth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals voted 9-6 to keep a previous ruling from a federal judge. So we see that happen. They've been wanting more access. People said it wasn't a good deal. So the appeals court, for right now, that's still the way it goes. They will not lift the restrictions. From the New York Post, FBI demotes agents who took knee during Black Lives Matter protests in 2020. The agents took a knee, a gesture to express dissent against perceived racial injustice during Black Lives Matter protests in Washington, D.C. We remember well, of course, the rise of Black Lives Matter after the killing of George Floyd. The agents, remember, took a knee during a Black Lives Matter protest in D.C. in June of 2020. Wow, almost 5 years like that. Wow, time flies. At least 4 of the kneelers were reassigned to positions widely viewed as demotions. The transferred agents previously held senior roles in counterintelligence, counterterrorism, and cybercrimes, the outlet reported. They were not given a reason for their transfers, according to the publication. The decision by the agents to take a knee was viewed by some as necessary to de-escalate the demonstration, as several Floyd-related protests turned violent that summer, and by others as a political statement. Those agents were not ever trained to be in that situation, a former agent familiar with the matter told the Washington Post. Riot control is not our mission. We are trained to de-escalate. The FBI Agents Association reportedly rewarded the kneelers with a $100 gift card for their actions during the protest. Oh. Former Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida, claimed in 2023 that he had learned some of the kneeling agents received plum personal opportunities and promotions and advancements from the Bureau. Many FBI personnel we were trusting to be on the front lines were photographed kneeling in surrender to people who at times were violent. Gaetz told Fox News at the time. To climb the ladder in federal employment, you shouldn't have to shimmy up the woke totem pole, he added, describing the behavior of the agents as demoralizing. The purpose of law enforcement is to keep people safe, not to engage in politics. Hear, hear. I love that. He argued, and for the last several years, we've seen the FBI more interested in virtue signaling at political activity than in just the nuts and bolts of evaluating the facts and the law. Trump administration has reportedly moved to investigate, reassign, and oust several senior FBI officials, including those in the raid of President Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence and in the investigation of January 6, 2021 Capitol riot participants. The FBI declined to comment on personnel matters. Of course you did. Of course you did. Wow. What an amazing article. So we're starting to see some of that stuff go on. We need to see a few agents reassigned or demoted from Butler, Pennsylvania. I know that. So we'll see what happens with that. Another article, Speaker Johnson meets with Stefanik as tensions linger. Of course, Johnson is the Speaker of the House, Republican, Louisiana, on Wednesday as he met with Representative Elise Stefanik, Republican, New York, on Wednesday as tensions linger between the two lawmakers after the New York Republican withdrew her nomination to be U.S.'s ambassador to the United Nations. The gathering, which Johnson confirmed to The Hill, came one day after the spat between the two Republicans entered the public eye, with Stefanik accusing Johnson of lying about alleged conversations they had regarding her potential run for governor of New York. It was great, really great meeting, Johnson told The Hill. She's like a sister to me, and there is a lot of things being said that weren't true of people about us, and what was being said, and we worked that out, and I thought it was great. Stefanik declined to comment when asked about the huddle. Politico first reported the meeting. The Stefanik-Johnson conflict drew headlines on Tuesday when the speaker suggested he had spoken with a New York Republican about her interest in running for governor of the Empire State. Asked if he had spoken to Stefanik and Representative Michael Lawler, Republican of New York, who is also eyeing a bid for New York governor, Johnson said he was having conversations in which some took as discussions with the two potential candidates. Stefanik, however, quickly shot back, writing on X, "This is not true. I have had no conversations with the speaker regarding the governor's race," she added. A lot of positioning going on right now. There's some major governor positions that are open around the country. It was just announced a couple of days ago that Senator Tommy Tuberville is looking to run for governor of Alabama. The state of Florida will also vote on a governor. Term limits. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Term limits help the people when the people are not being smart and doing stupid stuff. This thing helps them kind of get along. To get along, we might say. So anyway, some back and forth. It's politics. It's not like it's it's not a mystery. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told Iran that it had been warned if it continues to support the Houthis, terrorist organization, in the attacks in the Red Sea, quote, you will pay, end quote. Strong message. They sent this message to Iran on Wednesday night, warning the country that because of its lethal support of the Houthis terrorist organization, they will pay the consequences. We see your lethal support to the Houthis. We know exactly what you're doing, Hegseth said in a post on X. You know very well that the U.S. military is capable of, and if you were warned, you will pay the consequence at the time and place of our choosing. And of course, early this week, we talked about the plane that went off into the ocean, the Red Sea, off the Harry S. Truman. Unbelievable that this happened. Absolutely unbelievable. The move came after 47 straight days of U.S. airstrikes against Houthi targets. Maybe we need a little more aggressive. Maybe not just the volume. Maybe the volume is fine, but maybe the amount of ordnance that we drop on them. That's a lot of days. And another being striking communications, ability to manufacture the drones and those kind of sites. But they're eventually going to have to hit them in the face so hard, they won't want to open their mouths for a long time. They need to do that. Hegseth then retweeted a Truth Social post by President Donald Trump from March 17th, which said, quote, let nobody be fooled. The hundreds of attacks being made by Houthi, the sinister mobsters and thugs based in Yemen, who are hated by the Yemeni people, all emanate from and are created by Iran, Trump posted. Any further attack or retaliation by the Houthis will be met with great force, and there is no guarantee that the force will stop there. Iran has played the innocent victim of rogue terrorists from which they lost control, but they haven't lost control, the president continued. They're dictating every move, giving them the weapons, supplying them with money and highly sophisticated military equipment, and even so-called quote-unquote intelligence. Every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran. And Iran will be held responsible. And suffer the consequences. Those consequences will be dire. The build-up of the military, the increased rhetoric, doesn't sound like to me that a negotiated deal is going to work with Iran. It sounds like to me they're going to make it the last appeal as they uptick the military in the region. And if not, it looks like Operation Destroy Nuclear Reactor is on, no matter what Trump is saying. Because Israel's going to do it. They're not going to allow it to sit there. They didn't when Iraq wanted to do it. They took it out. And that's what they're probably telling the administration. Look, either you do it or we do it together. But if you don't do anything, we're doing it ourselves. We're trying to be fair because we know that's going to open up some bad wounds for it. But we're going to do it because we're not going to let our enemy get a nuclear bomb they could drop on Tel Aviv. And you know what? I understand that. I mean, nobody wants these jacklegs to have access to something like that. No way, Jose. We'll run a quick commercial, be right back, and we'll finish up this evening's MAGA report. Southern Fried Podcast, Patriot, MAGA report, however you want to say it. It's a nightly news show, 10-ish to 11-ish, depending on what our schedule is for other shows. Might be up to 10 or 15 after 10, but we'll be on. Lord willing, the creek don't rise. We'll be good. So, we just run a quick ad here. Fresh Press Farms will be right back.
Hey, this is Dave with the Southern Fried Podcast. Recently, me and Rob were able to go to Fresh Press Farms and do an interview, which we posted on all of our streams. We love these folks. They're amazing. And we are also customers of theirs. I've recently ordered my olive oil that we use in cooking to our home. We love that they're Georgia based. We love that they're the only olive producer in the state of Georgia. And we love that they're making jobs here for Georgians in South Georgia. We want you to become a part of their family and use their products. They are the makers of homegrown cold pressed cooking oils. Crafting oil like this means that they capture the best of the olive and the sunflower because they make that oil too. And they have other products that they have out there. It's an amazing company. They like to say freshness is never a question with Fresh Press Farms. They believe that what we put into our bodies should be minimally processed and actually improve our health and taste like the source. Locally produced and vertically integrated, they proudly grow, harvest, cold press, bottle, and distribute their oils in Georgia to ensure top-notch quality and a quick trip from Grove to Pranchy. Please go online and look up their website and order you some too. Support small business, support Georgia business, and we would appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.
And we're back. One of the things I really support about the administration, it's making America great again, or however you want to say it, is the kicking out of some of these who have came in under the student visas. Now, look, students come from all over the world, just like our students go to school in other places. This happens. But there are some of them that do not need to be here. They're not really students. They're really terror agents. They're nothing but rabble rousers who incite the riot and are constantly stirring problems within our university system. President Trump and his administration has revoked the visas of 4,000 foreign students in its first 100 days. Here, most with criminal records. Almost all these students have some sort of criminal background. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said repeatedly that they were trying to root out as many student radicals as they could find. Apparently, he wasn't kidding. Well, amen. Well, these people come in here. What do? They take over buildings. They set up massive protests. They set up their tents, and they just live there like it's a homeless camp or whatever. And this cannot be allowed to continue. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You can't. I can imagine me going to. Can you imagine me going to China and leading, coming in our student visa, leading protests that got violent? No, that wouldn't happen. This is an important policy change in the United States. The American people don't want to play host for foreign students who come here and call for the nation's destruction or that of our allies. Wow, love to hear this. This is a great thing. That's been my point all along. Why are we educating the world with people who are inside the country now, a Trojan horse, trying to tear down the country, and being an agent connected back into their world? Who knows what their transfer of information is? I love this. Not a full 90% of them had serious criminal records. I love it. Our visa system has lacked oversight and accountability. That's a common theme in our government. A senior State Department official told Fox News Digital, over the past 100 days, the Trump administration has worked to fix a broken system. Secretary Marco Rubio has led the State Department to take a surgical vetting approach to ensure individuals in America as visitors are abiding by our laws. Amen. The source said, we established an action working group which has resulted in thousands of visas being revoked because these individuals broke our laws. This is what effective governance looks like. Those serious crimes included, check this out, arson, wildlife and human trafficking, child endangerment, domestic abuse, DUI, and robbery. According to the New York Post, which first reported the number, it sends a very clear message. Yes, my gosh, we let these people come in here and they just do whatever they want. No, there has to be consequences. We take your visa. You can get the jack leg out. You can go back where you came from. We're not going. After all, they're not even really educated. All they're doing is rabble rousing. It's sought to riot, being a force against the America from the inside. Get these people out of here. Absolutely, I love that. I hope they find thousands more. It just killed me when the Russian president, not Putin, he's the prime minister or whatever, but the president, I kept Dmitriev or whatever, said that he was, college trained in America, and now he's over there smack talking America. Good grief. We need to really take a close review of that and see what we can do. And I think that's what they're doing. But this is ridiculous. We have people coming over here, sucking up our air, and then using it to spew hate towards the president, universities, and all Americans, basically. It's ridiculous. Good job. The first 100 days is looking good. There's a lot of good things going on. We get one more here. Trump impeachment filer Representative Thanadar's pharma company abandoned over 170 dogs and monkeys, leaving them to die. By the Michigan Democrat, Representative Sri Thanadar's former pharmaceutical company after it filed for bankruptcy in 2010, according to multiple reports. When questioned by the press at the time, Thanadar responded that his laboratory had operated in full compliance with all regulations and guidelines established by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and other relevant government agencies. This Democrat from Michigan stated on Monday this week that he had filed 7 articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump. Why don't you fix your own crap, dude? This is another thing that just drives me batty. You're out here doing this stupid stuff. Why don't you make a difference in your own state, moron? The deportation of Kilmar Bregno Garcia, the Salvadorian illegal alien, who was sent back to his native country, and the Department of Government Efficiency's DOGE cuts without congressional consent are among the impeachable acts according to him. This is him speaking. He says, I have, in his X account, I have introduced articles of impeachment against President Trump. Well, buoy for you. Go for it. Donald Trump is not above the law. And when he ignores the Constitution, oh, you people, I don't even know what the Constitution is. He should be held accountable. They only care about the Constitution when they think they can twist it in a way to hurt a conservative. That's it. They don't care about the Constitution. They're constantly trampling on it. Donald Trump and his administration continue to stonewall the federal courts and playing games with the DUO process, rights of many. The due process, rights of many. This is not leadership. Disregarding a lawful Supreme Court ruling as an impeachable offense, plain and simple. For his part, he was born in India and was reelected last fall after being initially elected to Congress in 2022. In 2018, he also ran a failed campaign for governor of Michigan. This is the third time he's attempted to impeach Trump, according to the Detroit Free Press. Why is the leadership not putting a stop to that crap over? Why do they just keep letting it go? They've got sway and power over those folks. They can tell them you're not getting funds. There's a lot of things they can do. They have to be complicit in it that this dude continues to do this. In the bankruptcy filing in April 2010, local animal rights activists discovered that at least 118 beagles were still trapped within the facility with no food or water. Shows you what kind of people we're talking about here. Additionally, according to USA Today article, lab employees were eventually hopped over the facility's fences to provide the dogs food and water. On July 4th, the beagles were finally taken from the closed lab to a number of shelters where animal activists from 2 different animal welfare organizations worked to pair the dogs with adopted families. The dogs arrived in a van from the lab to a staging area where volunteers groomed, fed, and cared for the desolate animals, according to a video report by the Times Herald Record. Additionally, a few days later, 55 long-tailed monkeys that had similarly been abandoned in the in the closed Anaclin testing facility were rescued by the California-based organization Defense of Animals. Nevertheless, the editor has consistently denied any responsibility for the abandonment of the animals at Anaclin Preclinical Services. He also claims that after the company was placed in receivership by Bank of America, he lost control of the facility and its operations. Oh yeah, cut bait and go, buddy. Cut bait and go. Rabble rouser. Going to keep on impeaching the president. Let's look at your past. Good grief. Go look this dude up. You'll see all you need to see. Lord have mercy. What a mess. Go President Trump. Southern Fried Podcast concurs. Well, folks, that's about the end of our nightly news MAGA report. We'll be back each night, Monday through Friday. And then we have a 2-hour show on Saturday morning, usually at 10. This week will be adjusted because I'm going to be on the interview with the Anchor Conservative at 11 a.m. live. So I'll bump that up. That'll probably be like 8:30 to 10:30. I need to be off about 30 minutes before to get ready for the interview and get the address and all the things. You know, it's not hard, but you just have things you have to do. And look forward to that. Tune in if you have Rumble Premium. Tune in. We'll try to get a copy of it at some point. All right. Good night. God bless. We'll see you in the morning. Yes, the morning show. Unless something happens, we'll be back. It's just me, not Rob. We'll join him again tomorrow night on Cornbread Nation show, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then the Friday shows. Take care. God bless. We'll go out with some music, and then I'm going to make my way to bed. It's been a long day, but it's been good to be here with you all evening long. We appreciate all those who have stopped by and all the different streams. It's truly a blessing to us. All right. Good night. God bless.